And I want to thank the president for having reappointed me. The reason he gave for my reappointment was my experience and the service I have rendered to the higher education sector in this country. I've been in the higher education sector since 1976, and I've worked in the university since 1980. So I know all the ins and outs of university. So you may be talking of the friction. The friction arises out of where one does not tolerate dissenting views. Anybody who opposes her must be punished, must be witch-hunted, must be tormented. And that happening to my council members, I said, no, this cannot happen. And that's the cause of the whole problem. Somebody who does not listen, advise, somebody who does not know the limits of our authority. I have never seen anybody in this country challenging the appointment or the view of the president. It is quite clear, Patrick. If you don't agree with the president, you have two options. One, write back to him and say, Mr. President, you did this, but I don't agree with it. The second thing is to resign.
Okay, but Professor Katunguka, if you may pause there, I'm wondering how two individuals at the apex of an organization that is very important for Uganda, the National Council for Higher Education, the chairperson and the executive director cannot agree. It really leaves us wondering, how can you even work for the betterment of Uganda, let alone the organization you are leading?
Patrick, this is a very temporary happening. To me, it's a temporary happening. Because, let me tell you, the First Lady, whom I have great respect for, called us to a meeting, me and her, and also Professor Joy Kwesiga. We talked to her. She guided us. She said, you must work together for the good of this country. I took that advice in wholesale, and I promised her, you are not going to hear anything from me. So where did this come from? Patrick, I am the chair of the Vice Chancellor's Forum, the Vice Chancellors of Public Universities of Uganda. And I represent the National Council as the representative of Public University Senate. Now, my constituency sat down and recommended me for continuation of my term. And the vice chair, who is Dr. Gata James, a renowned administrator in higher education and the current director of UMI, wrote a letter to the ED informing her that I was re-nominated to represent the University Senate. This lady picked a pen and wrote back to say, I do not accept this nomination. I reject it. But tell me, there are many constituencies which are represented in the National Council. And we as a council, when those constituencies nominate their members, the only thing we can do is to recognize them and have them come on the council and serve. The ED has no powers whatsoever to vet any nomination or even to reject any nomination. And that is one area of contention.
So let me look at this issue, Professor Katunguka, because you're a vice chancellor of one of the major universities in Uganda, at the same time the chairperson of the National Council for Higher Education. Doesn't there come a problem of a conflict of interest in this case when matters of a given university, probably even Kyambogo University, are before you or before the same body where you are the chairperson of the council? Isn't this a problem in itself?
Patrick, this question has been given to me very many times, and I have tried to answer it in two ways. One, there is the law. The framers of the law did not preclude a vice chancellor from being the chair of the National Council for Education. The first chairperson of the council was Professor Frederick Kayanja, who was the Vice Chancellor of Mbarara University of Science and Technology. The second chairperson was Professor Pen Mogi, who was the Vice Chancellor of Gulu University. And now I come in as the Vice Chancellor of Tambogo. So the law was quite clear, and I have argued it in two ways. If you want anybody who has profound experience in the running of higher education institutions, that person should come from the higher education institution. And I want to tell you, Patrick, that let me, for the first time, be selfish and say there is nobody who knows higher education system in this country than myself. I have gone through all the ranks, right from head of department, dean, director, DVC, vice chancellor. So there is nothing in the business of higher education that I don't know.
But you can say the names. You can say. Yes.
Let me first finish.
Okay, sir.
The second point, Patrick, is when I came into the National Council for Higher Education, and I raised this matter when Professor Kayanja was the Vice Chancellor of Mbarara University, I said, in my view, it is not right, and I still stand by my word. In my view, it may not be right for a Vice Chancellor to be the chair of the National Council for Education. Mm-hmm. We have proposed amendments to the Act. This has taken too long. The amendments to the Act are that, one, the council, which is now made up of about 24 members, which is like a market, cannot function properly. So it must be reduced to about 9 to 11 members. That was our proposal. The second proposal, which I backed as the chair of the National Council for Education, was said that the chair of the council should not come from one of the higher education institutions. So we should look from outside the institution and pick somebody who has profound experience in management and in guiding the council. Those are my two statements. One, I know they can raise a conflict of interest, but this question has not arisen, because if you are well-grounded and you are well-grounded in management and all these things, it would be wrong for a vice chancellor to bend the rules in favor of his institution. But I'm not saying the conflict of interest cannot come in. It can come in.
Yeah, but you see, at the very beginning, you seem to have realized that there could be a conflict of interest. So people who are picking that as a problem, have a point. In fact, for you to pick the names of Professor Pen Mogi and others, your predecessors could have set a precedent, but that does not make it entirely correct.
That doesn't make it correct, Patrick, and that's why we have proposed amendments to the law. That's why we have proposed amendments. I agree with you entirely. You can have a situation where the chairperson of the council follows his areas of conflict and does funny things. But I want to tell you that in the 5 years I have been in the council, such a situation has not arisen, and I think I've been fairly impartial. And it is in my interest to make sure that my university abides by the standards and the guidelines set by the National Council for Higher Education.
I'm not doubting your sense of integrity and your professionalism, sir, but the possibility of a conflict of interest can be cited by those who do not believe in your methods of work to say, look, the whole thing is problematic, even though your sense of integrity is impeccable.
But the matter we are talking about now, the source of this conflict has nothing to do with conflict of interest. It has something to do with the integrity of a person who has not accepted that the council is her supervisor and she's answerable to the council because the law says so, and she has no right to determine who comes on the council because the constituencies determine their members. So this is the cause of the conflict. Nothing to do with the conflict of interest. But I agree with you. This conflict of interest can come about.
So of late, we have had some courses people are saying are outdated or expired courses. Isn't this the issue to do with the National Council of Education to know what kind of courses universities are offering?
Absolutely. This is.
But you have had a term now that is being renewed, so this was right within your docket, sir.
Pardon?
But this was within your docket to sort it.
Yes, and we are doing that. You know, program review is a lengthy process, and it begins and ends in the university. Universities develop these programs, and they run for about 4 years, and sometimes 5 years. And after they have run for one cycle, these programs can be reviewed. So the review programs is largely the responsibility of the university. What the National Council does is to ensure that programs are reviewed on time and they are submitted for accreditation. But you'll find that these programs, when they are being reviewed, there isn't a lot that is going to change in these programs. For example, if you are teaching African history or European history, of course times have changed. And you might say, yes, you need review. So we are doing reviews, but it doesn't demand a lot of changes. And universities are doing their best in view of the staffing levels and the resources they have. I would have no problem with this program because programs don't become obsolete. After a number of years, you introduce new changes. After a number of years, you review the reading list or you review the references. And those are minor changes unless the new programs are coming on board.
And you know, I've heard in some universities, you know, where people are saying that they have been working illegally, you know, having students go when they shouldn't be, you know, there as universities. I think there's one in Mengo I've heard. And I'm wondering, how does a university, you know, admit students continue to move almost illegally, yet we have the National Council of Higher Education?
Patrick, I can tell you, you have a council, the National Council of Higher Education, which regulates higher education, which sets standards which should be followed, but not everybody follows. So that's why through the monitoring of these universities, we find that some of them do not meet the standards. So they should not be operating as universities. Initially, they may have licenses to operate, to start the project as they call it. But along the way, they may not fulfill the standards which are required. So what does the National Council do? It reviews the license and sometimes cancels that license. We have cancelled the license of some institutions. But to our disappointment, Patrick, the National Council does not have the enforcing mechanism to say that once we have closed this institution, it must close. That is the duty of the police. So we close the institutions, we go to monitor them, we find they are opening. When we go back to monitor them, we find they are being guarded. So as a National Council, as a body, we have appealed to the minister, we have appealed to the president at one meeting. We said the institutions will close, refuse to close, because we don't have an enforcement mechanism.
All right.
Not police, we cannot go and stand on the door and say, don't open.
Professor Eli Katunguka, Vice Chancellor, Kyambogo University and Chairperson, National Council of Higher Education. We're going to take a break and the hot seat will be right back. Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the hot seat. My name is Patrick Kamara, and I can say now, finally, Professor Eli Katunguka is in the studio. We started the discussion on phone as you was driving, trying to beat the jam. I'm told the jam tonight in Kampala is crazy, but thank God you've made it here. You know, let us continue that discussion. I want to go back. What's the composition of the council, of the National Council of Higher Education? What kind of people are supposed to be there? What are the requirements for somebody to be on that council?
The law is quite clear, Patrick. In section 7, it gives you the composition of the National Council. You have the chairperson of the council, who is elected from among the members.
Okay.
You have the vice chairperson. Then you have representatives of the vice chancellors of public universities.
But if you are elected among members, then what is the thing about the president nominating you or appointing you? If you have an electoral college of sorts.
When the chair is going to be appointed for the first time,
okay,
the law provides that the council nominates 2 people who are forwarded to the president.
Okay.
And the president appoints 1 person from the 2. And the president has been emphatic. He says the chairperson of the National Council for Education must be a scientist.
Okay.
Don't ask me.
Well, that is his idea.
Yes.
He's always very passionate about
because
science.
He wants higher education to focus on science and drive this country through scientific innovations and whatnot. So other representatives are representatives of vice chancellors of public universities, representatives of vice chancellors of private universities, a representative of the senates of public universities, senates of private universities. Then there are others from religious organizations which are non-degree awarding. So you have a representative of the Muslims, a representatives of the Anglicans, or representatives of the Catholics, if that's what you want to call them. And then you have representatives from organizations which are thought to be important in higher education. A representative of the farmers.
In higher education?
Yes.
Okay.
A representative of the Chamber of Commerce, Trade. A representative of the industry. Many people. So you have 24 of these. They are representatives.
So
somebody from higher education.
Your peers or your colleagues nominated you.
Yes.
So to begin with, before the president even appoints you, so you have no issue with your colleagues or your peers?
Absolutely none. None. Because they nominated me and they nominated me again. And Patrick, what I want you to understand here, there is a difference between first-term appointment and reappointment. When you are being appointed for the first term as the chair of the National Council, you get these 2 names for them, the president. He appoints 1. When it comes to the renewal of contract, it's the appointing authority to determine whether you have performed or not, and they renew your contract. You don't go back to selecting 2 people to send them there, because the selection of the 2 people is to say one of these people is capable.
It has already been done anyway, so
yes,
they have already shown confidence in you,
exactly.
on the 2 of you, so it's the
president picks 1, and when you have served 5 years, they watch and see how you have performed. That determines the renewal of your contract. Like in the previous cases, the renewal of Professor Kayanja's contract. Professor Kayanja wrote to the president through the Minister of Education and Sports as the supervising ministry. His contract was renewed. When it came to Professor Penmogi, the one from Gulu, he wrote to the president requesting for renewal of contract, expressing what he had achieved during his time, and the president renewed his contract. I did the same. I wrote to the president through the Minister of Education and Sports. The Minister of Education and Sports recommended me to the president in writing, and the president responded to that correspondence saying, I have no objection, recognizing my contribution and my experience. Now, what capacity does my ED have to say, Katunguka, you should not have written to the president?
Well,
what capacity?
Let's not go to the most of the words of your ED, because certainly she's not here, and she's expressed herself how I wish she could be on the chair with you tonight, because that is not happening. But I want to know, really, the job of Vice Chancellor of a university like the one you head is quite very demanding, and so is the job of the chairperson of the National Council of Higher Education. These are 2 demanding entities.
The job of the chair of the National Council for Education, the National Council meets quarterly, once every 4 months. So you can say it's not demanding. Once the council committees
you're more or less like regulating. You're regulating the institutions of. It's constant.
You are regulating.
Observing,
you are regulating through the secretariat. The secretariat does the day-to-day work, and that is the secretariat headed by the ED. Now, through the council committees, which are about 6, they receive reports from the secretariat, they go through them, and then a council meeting is called. So we come to a council meeting, we receive the documents from the council committees, and we take decisions. We guide the secretariat. So that happens once every 4 months.
So how come that we always hear institutions of higher learning, universities, operating without licenses, or sometimes when they don't have the requisite, what it takes for them to run as a university, and yet parents are paying money, a lot of money, people are putting in their time, only to realize that whatever they studied is actually, they have gone through a university that is not licensed to be a university.
I don't know.
That can be very painful.
I don't know whether I can answer that one satisfactorily.
Because you're the chairperson of the council.
Yes, I think there could be a weakness in monitoring.
But isn't that in your docket?
Absolutely. Well, let me come back to that. Because one, the council is operating, the secretariat. That's the work of the secretariat, which feeds into the council. Mm-hmm. And the secretariat is operating thinly. They are very thin on the ground. That's why even review programs takes forever. Some universities will complain, we submitted these programs 5 years ago. No answer has come through. So I think there is something we must do to beef up the staffing in the secretariat of the council so that they can be able to monitor. And again, Patrick, I must tell you, when this council was set up in 2001, how many universities did we have in 2001?
It must be a few, sure, already.
There was only Makerere.
2001, they should have.
And IUIU, and maybe Mbara University. Yes. There were about 3. How many universities do we have now?
Oh my God.
We have 53.
Okay, so there are 40 now, 53.
Yeah, there are about 53 universities. And in addition to that, you have 162 other tertiary institutions. So do you see the volume of work that needs to be done? Mm-hmm. And that's why we are proposing, I have proposed this, I even wrote it in my memo to the president, that it is high time to separate management of universities from other tertiary institutions. You have a council for university education focusing on universities, and then another body focusing on tertiary institutions. It can even go back to the ministry to regulate these institutions, because they were not going to have a council which is efficient to regulate all these organizations. We are not really serious.
But all these 53 universities that you're talking about now, are they really producing graduates who can compete on the global stage? Can compete anywhere? I mean, are they not just universities in name?
No.
Some of them.
No. By the time a university is licensed, I want to assure you, Patrick, by the time the university is licensed, a lot of work has gone into to see the structure of this new university, the capacity to teach, the programs they are going to teach, and all the other facilities. So I want to assure that these universities which are licensed are doing a good job. It may not be the best, because sometimes they don't have staff, sometimes they don't have sufficient facilities, but the quality of the graduates is not so bad from these institutions.
Because there has been a report that we don't only have a problem of unemployment in Uganda, that even our graduates are unemployable.
But Patrick, we have discussed that thing here before.
Yes, we have, but it comes again. It comes again. With all respect, doesn't that also point at the quality of education at the highest level?
Patrick, I took particular interest in this matter because we had a seminar in Chambogo where we called people from the industry to tell us what is lacking in our graduates that you say they are not employable. Do you know what they told us? What is lacking are not technical skills and knowledge that we give the students. What is lacking are soft skills. One, These people, these graduates,
Values.
are disrespectful. They don't respect their managers. They don't know how to keep time. They don't know how to work in teams. They don't know how to meet deadlines. And deadlines in the industry is number one. So these are the things they say are lacking. They don't know how to communicate.
These are very crucial ingredients in every human being for you to be able to be productive.
These are values they are not taught in a university. Universities, we don't tell people how to write letters. Me and you, who taught us how to write application letters? From secondary school.
Secondary school.
Yes. So what am I saying? This is an ecosystem. We must look at our education system from primary, early childhood, primary, secondary, university. When you come and say university, your graduates are not employable. You are apportioning blame to a unit that may not take all the responsibility. Who teaches people to be respectful? Who teaches people to manage their time properly? Who teaches people to be able to work in teams? Look at our children. You are seated together all in a house. A child comes from out, he goes to the fridge, he gets his soda, he starts drinking. He doesn't ask, does anybody want a drink? No. So where do we start? The values. So the soft skills are the ones which are limited, not the knowledge we impart to the students in the university. Working in teams, respecting your colleagues, respecting others. Today I had an issue in my university. This is non-teaching staff. They want more money for their salaries. What did they choose? They came and bombarded my office, but fortunately I was not there. They said we want money. That's not the way things are done. So values of our people. And I want to thank the Minister of Education and Sports, Janet. Janet has been emphasizing values. What are the values? These values are learned in a family, not in a school. Communication, how to talk to your people, how to write letters, how to keep time.
When the job market has a point,
yes,
the
yes,
people
of
you're
course.
selling to them don't have those ingredients that can make them productive. If you cannot respect timelines, if you cannot work with a team, if you don't have no integrity, if you have no respect, of course you're not going to be productive. So we have a problem.
And Patrick, one other industrialist told us the leading complaint he had was that he cannot trust these people. So if you cannot...
Integrity.
Yeah. Said, I cannot trust your people. So I cannot give them a job. So they are not employable. Who teaches people to be trustworthy? Is it a university? Is it?
So what kind of people are we sending you at the university? Because you've been in this game since 1970 something.
76.
And you must have seen a change. So what kind of children are we sending you? What do we need to do?
Patrick,
because now that's a verdict from the world of work.
We must now look at our education system from primary, secondary, lower secondary, higher secondary, and then university, and look at how do we impart these values in our people. It's not that they don't know the knowledge they have. The engineers, they know how to do things. But the integrity, when they go to mix sand and cement, most of the cement does not go there. Is it because they don't have the knowledge? It's the integrity which is lacking. So the question I put to you and me is, how do we go back to the drawing board? Where did we come from? How did we go through the system? What has gone wrong?
You know what is painful, especially in the area of construction? You will see a building that was put up in 1930, 1950. Today,
still standing.
You may not even drive a nail into that wall.
No.
And the building that was constructed yesterday is crumbling tomorrow.
Yes.
And yet we are supposed that as humanity in education supposed to be advancing. But for us, we seem to be going backwards.
So, Patrick, we need to address these values. People are taught in engineering materials. We teach material science. They know the strengths of materials. They test blocks. They do that knowledge they have. But when it comes to do the work, then you have the issues of integrity. How do you ensure that the materials that you have provided for the job are used for that job? without being siphoned off, and you end up with low quality work, the building collapses before you even finish it. You cannot blame the university. In a way you may, because maybe they should have done something better. But it goes back to the values of the people we are producing. Me and you have a responsibility to question ourselves, how do we instill values in our people? Look at the corruption which is going on. How much money do our people need? How much money is enough?
Primitive accumulation.
How much money is enough, Patrick?
You cannot feed the greed and
Patrick, if you gave me 6 billion and you brought it here, I would collapse. What do I do with it? Where do I put it? But people accumulate this money and they do more insatiable appetite. And the young people are looking. They are watching. You buy a car today, you buy a V8 tomorrow, you buy this brand new pickup the following day, and the young men are watching.
So
when they finish university, they want to be like you from day one. And that's the problem. Values. We have lost values.
We have been producing graduates for quite some time now, 53 universities and other tertiary institutions. But there's a problem of unemployment. Really, you as a teacher, when you see people getting out and yet they can't find work, that must be also frustrating.
It is frustrating, Patrick. And I think we must recognize a number of facts. One, our population is on the increase. It has been on the increase for a long time. You know, the Ugandan population is the highest in the world. Did you know that?
In terms of what?
In terms of the number of children per fertile woman.
Oh, yes.
6 to 7 on average. That's the highest. And the population expansion rate is about 3.4%.
That's unsustainable.
It's the highest in the world. So we are producing too many people. We are not catering for them. That is one. The population is on the increase. Two, the rate at which jobs are being created is low. And three, maybe we should also start refocusing our training. Start training entrepreneurs. I had an opportunity to visit a university in Iowa, in the USA. They have a fantastic business school. And the duty of that business school is to train entrepreneurs. It's not to give them knowledge of business and record keeping. It's to train entrepreneurs.
But then you, as the chairperson of the council, you should be in the business of reviewing some of these courses, repurposing some of these courses to meet the necessary the demands of the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. What did I do when I came back? I had a meeting with my School of Management and Entrepreneurship in Chambogo. We have a very good school. We call it SOME, School of Management and Entrepreneurship. And I tasked them to review their program to be able to produce entrepreneurs, not to give theoretical work. These people in Iowa I was talking to, who are lecturers, they have businesses. So they are teaching from experience. Here you have theoreticians. So you are right to say that we must review our programs to make it more practical, give somebody skill so that when they get out, they don't have to look to government for a job, because there are no jobs in government. The president has told you this many times. The jobs in the government are shrinking. So we must give our people skills to be able to develop something for themselves.
So I always wanted to know, if you're teaching the students, maybe Faculty of Agriculture, do they really have the time and the areas to go and do the practical work as it is in the field of agriculture?
Yes, they do. They do. Every student has a plot of land, and they use that during the practicals. They go and plant things, they go and apply fertilizers, they do research on those plots, the yields with the fertilizers, the yields without fertilizers. They do all those things. And the practicals are good, especially in agriculture. I have no problem there. But what you find is students don't want to be engaged in agriculture. They don't want to make their hands dirty. Have you seen our girls with the nails? the nails, they attach and they are long. Do you think such a person will go to agriculture? We had a lecture in Makerere. In VET was a very interesting course. The lecturer would make sure that when we were in reproductive classes, if a girl came with nails which are painted, that would be the first person to put a hand into the animal to tell us whether the animal is pregnant or not. And the girls would cry and yell because they have painted their nails. How do you spoil it? How do you spoil their nails? So our children do not want to work. They are trained, but when they go out, they don't want to do this. But again, with the increase in population, they have to be innovative. But again, where is the land? Where is the land to work on?
Have you tried to find out why, when you look at from the very basic level, early education, when children are enrolling from, for example, P1, you know, the numbers keep dropping. They drop so drastically that even less than a quarter, perhaps, or even half, seat for PLOE, and the number, maybe a quarter of that will go to O level. So sometimes you wonder, where are the Ugandan children going? The completion rate is so low.
That's an interesting question, Patrick. And I think somebody should be interested and design a study to give us an answer. A carefully studied research program to give us answers where these children go from primary, those who enroll in primary, come to P7, from P7 to senior 4, the drop is even bigger. From senior 4 to senior 6, it's even bigger. From senior 6 to university, it's bigger. So somebody, somewhere in the education sector, and I'm going to take this one up, I think I should sponsor a study to give us information where these children are going. Because I would like to believe that they're not being wasted. What is happening, especially from senior 6, senior 4, senior 6, many of these students are now going into vocational institutions. They don't go to the university directly.
The government has built a number of vocational institutions, but Professor Katunguka, if you go, in some cases, you know, they're not benefiting from there. Some of them are half empty, some of them are quarter.
Yeah, I think it's a mindset. We must encourage our children to go to these colleges, and we must also provide facilities for these colleges to run. Provide teachers, provide materials to use in training. Once that one is done, our students will go there. What is becoming interesting, there are some parents who will come and tell you, instead of my child going to do Bachelor of Arts with education, I want him to go to a vocational training institution and get a diploma in tailoring, a diploma in automotive, and a diploma in
education to do.
Yes, things to do.
Okay.
And the parents are taking
I wish I could go on and on and on with you, but in the interest of time, we have to stop here. Probably 30 seconds, your concluding remark.
Concluding remark. I want to say that Ugandans should not be worried about what's going on in the National Council for Education. We have authorities. We are not our own bosses. This will be addressed. It is a matter of disagreement in principle, where one must learn to do the right thing and the other doesn't want to do the right thing. This will be addressed. It's temporary. And as we go through our education system, talking about employment, we must now be careful about the graduates we produce. Can we be more intentional about producing skilled people with hands-on practical training so that when a student leaves the institution, they can do something of their own? Look at many students who have poultry farms, small poultry units. They are able to feed themselves and pay school fees for their brothers and sisters. So that's the only way to go. We must review our curriculum and make it more practical-oriented.
Professor Eli Rwakishaya Katunguka, Vice Chancellor, Kyambogo University, and Chairperson, National Council of Higher Education. Sir, I want to thank you so much for the time you have given us, for your submission, and also for your dedication to the education sector.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of the Hot Seat. Good night and God bless you.